absolutely booed me off the stage, not onto it, but that's okay. How's everyone doing? We good? Yeah! Wow! I didn't expect that. I like normally comedy gigs, people kind of try and stay away from the front, which you've got a massive congregation in the front. That's normally because they're nervous, but I don't want them to be nervous tonight. I'm not nervous, and I'm performing, so that's a good start. Although, truth be told, I've had sex in front of more people. But then my dad did have a lot of friends. No, my dad, to be honest, since I stopped my dad coming to gigs, I started to grow in confidence quite a lot, become a lot more selfish. And I've really started to come to my own, which is funny enough what he was doing when you think about it. But no, very dark stuff. But no, they live in Scotland. My family are from Scotland, that's why they don't come to my gigs. I'm actually half English and half Scottish, or a mudblood for the kids. So that's why I don't come to these sorts of things. But I quite like being a non-Londoner, because obviously, despite my voice, I'm not from London. And I like being a non-Londoner in London. You can pick out a fellow non-Londoner in London, because I've been here so many years, I've picked up tricks and tips to spot a fellow non-Londoner in London in case you need it. And I'll pass one of them on to you now. For instance, are you from London? No. That's my main trick, is to just to ask them if they're from London. That's it. But yeah. No, even when I'm at home up in Scotland, to be honest, my parents generally don't come to gigs, and that's because they're from that middle generation where they're not quite sure what's appropriate, what's sending them to hell or not, and they don't quite know. And I'll tell you what I mean. For instance, my granddad's generation up here, he's well into his 70s, 80s, I'm not sure. He doesn't count, he doesn't remember. 70s, 80s, and he's from that generation. Let's not beat about the bush. He's a bit racist. He's from that generation, but they get away with it because they're old and they're fat and they're grey and they're cuddly. They kind of get away with saying slightly offhand things, you know. Hitler, he tried to come over in his prime. Stupid. Wait 30 years. If he had come over slightly overweight, a bit grey, with Race Hate and Werther's Originals, we'd have let him in. It's like, bless him. Oh, Hitler, he wants to lock up he'll sleep well tonight. Bless him. So he's up there, my granddad. He's that level of paranoia where, you know, he won't, despite the fact he can't read or write, he won't join a library because he'll be on the system. He's one of them. He's not quite all there. This is the best one. He won't eat Indian food. He won't eat curry, and I quote, "not since 9/11." Which, politically, is pretty stupid. Geographically, that's demented. That makes no sense whatsoever. But he's one of them, and that generation refused to be shocked by anything, so he's okay with all this. He wouldn't care what I'm saying. And an example is, they're never shocked. They're the kind, you know, when they see a tsunami and they're like, that's a spot of rain in my day. One of those types, right? So, story on the news the other week, horrible story. Basically, it was a gangland killing in Los Angeles, where an 11-year-old boy in a gangland killing was shot dead. Horrible story. Came off the news a few weeks ago, and it just silenced the whole room. We all just watched it. And I said, you know, how do you shoot a child? Looked up from his paper, went, no emotion, just aim lower. Back to the as if I was genuinely asking for advice. Not philosopher, genuinely asking how to get, oh cheers granddad, write that down, that's no problem. That generation, they'll listen to anything, they're okay. Now the younger generation, a lot of people in this room, the generation I'd like to consider myself a part, we're liberal, we don't care what we're going to hell for, mainly because we know it doesn't exist. We're alright. You know, I've got friends I would call black, I've got friends I would call gay, I've got friends I would call black and gay. Oh, I call him Steve, I've got one of them. I'm as liberal as the next guy, but I want to be allowed into a club eventually. Do you know what I mean? It's one of them. So they're on that generation. Then there's my parents' generation, my mum's generation, where she doesn't quite know whether she's racist or bigoted or not. She knows there's certain things she's got the influence of my granddad's generation, and I don't know why I put him up there on the pedestal. He should be my granddad's generation and our generation, and she doesn't quite know what to think, what she thinks is appropriate or not. She'll say, "Oh, Craig, I think I've got racist." So, it doesn't work like that. You can't catch it. What have you done? Fuck Nick Griffin. It doesn't work. It doesn't work like that, man. You can't just get racist. It's not an infection, and you know, it's typical. She doesn't mean it. She says things she doesn't even realise. For instance, a couple of years ago, do you remember when Boyzone? Does anyone remember Boyzone? Yeah, I remember Boyzone. When Stephen Gately from Boyzone passed away, he's on holiday in Mallorca, and I said to my mum, "Have you heard? It's really sad, you know. Stephen Gately, the singer from Boyzone, he passed away." Like, and she was like, oh, is that the little gay fella? I was like, my mum sounds like a camp version of me apparently. Is that the little gay fella? I was like, yeah, he was on holiday with his boyfriend in Mallorca and you know, he died, it's tragic. And she was like, what was he up to? I was like, he wasn't up to anything, I was just on holiday with his boyfriend. She's like, well, if you are going to live that lifestyle, it's like, Mum, he's gay, he's not a fucking trapeze artist. Like, that lifestyle, it's that unfair thing, isn't it? You think about it. If that had been Gary Barlow, she'd have been pictured, you know, choirs singing The Greatest Day and him passing gently into sleep. Stephen Gately, a gay pop star, and it's Frankie Goes to Hollywood and asphyxie wanking. It's like, it's all that, it's that unfair, you know, what she thinks, and that's why she doesn't really come to gigs. And I moved away from Scotland because there's no work up there. I came down here for a job, really, and I wanted, it's going well, as you can see I'm here, and I wanted a job where, you know, where you feel like that, you feel good about it. When you walk in a room, people shit themselves, right? And I did a week at a retirement home, and it wasn't for me. Oh, it's a grown-up. And my recruitment agency, they said to me, you know, the problem is, Mr. Hazel, is that you've had too many jobs. Like it says here, you've been a barman, you've been a chef, you've been a waiter, you've been a holiday rep, you work in a bank, you've been a travel agent. It even says here that you've been a psychic. I said, listen, I know what you're thinking. I can't finish on that, can I? Jesus. Right, before I go, I will tell you a couple of true things. Not that everything I said hasn't been true, obviously it has, but I actually started doing comedy because I had a list of 50 things I wanted to achieve and accomplish before I died. On that list, I should say this, but I'm not terminally ill when I made that list. Unless, of course, you think I've been rubbish, in which case I'm from the Make-A-Wish Foundation, and you should be ashamed of yourselves, all of you. But I made a list. I wanted to eat in a Gordon Ramsay restaurant. I wanted to go to Las Vegas. I wanted to learn another language. And all of those things I wanted to do is I wanted to do stand-up comedy. And of those 50 things, there's actually only 3 left. Although my best friend claims that there's 4 things left. He's like an adjudicator on it. One of the more shallow things on it was that I wanted to have a threesome. And he said that sleeping with a pregnant girl doesn't count. But I said it is, you just don't know if it's a cool threesome or an uncool threesome, you know what I mean? And before I go, I should clear my dad's name, because he's had a bit of a bad press at the beginning of the act. My dad's actually a born-again Christian, and I can tell by your face you're wondering, does that make him more likely or less likely to sexually abuse me as a child? It's a good question. But he is actually a born-again Christian, and the reason he doesn't come to my gigs is because I frankly think it's a bit weird going out drinking and stuff with your dad, and I'll tell you why. Because when you're out and about, someone mentioned it earlier, you end up on the same cycle, and you end up going to the toilet at the same time as other guys, and you'll always see them in the urinal when you go in there, and you have to give them that awkward nod of, you don't want to be over-friendly, because the only reason you know them is because you go in there and you get your penis out, so it's a weird place to be over-friendly. But when you're there at the urinal, often at girls if you've never been in, sometimes it's a trough, sometimes they're individual. Either way, it doesn't matter, curiosity is still there. You go to the toilet, and you see them a few times, and it's a big red button, right? It's that, don't do this. And you just have that temptation just to look across, right? Now, it's not gay, you don't want to see their penis, you just want to know that you can see their penis. It's like the ultimate taboo, okay? And never is that a bigger taboo than when that penis is your dad's. It is the ultimate taboo. The very tool that created you is just a trough of piss away, and the temptation to look's overwhelming. And let me tell you from experience, no good can come of being caught looking at your dad's penis. Okay, all I got was size envy. And you look frankly disgusted. Though I haven't seen my dad's penis. It just felt big. But ladies and gentlemen, that's great guys, that's me.